Shalom Aleichem. I am Malevsky here, Chabad Family Programs. Tonight is Yud Aleph Nisan. It is the Rebbe's birthday. I'd like to share a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov. I just learned that I believe holds one of the Rebbe's inspirations for us. It's a very deep thought. It's a deep, demanding expectation. It's a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov, and it was quoted by the previous Rebbe in a story, in the form of a story. The Baal Shem Tov taught, there's a Pesach, a verse in Isaiah and Yeshaya. It talks about, and the words are in Hebrew, and I'll translate, Uvefarischem kapechem, when you will stretch out your arms. God says to the Jewish people, A'alim einai mikem, I will hide my eyes from you, I'll turn away, I won't look at you, I won't see you. Gam kitarbu tefila, even if you will increase in prayer, you'll pray a lot. Eineni shomea, says God, I will not listen, I will not hear your prayers. Yedechem damim maleu, for your hands are filled with blood. So that's the verse. The verse is God is saying to the Jewish people, you're going to stretch out your hands in prayer, Rashi says, even if you will increase in prayer, I will hide my eyes and shut my ears, because your hands are filled with blood. You have blood on your hands. The Baal Shem Tov's role in this world, his name was Yisrael. The Jewish people are Yisrael. And he came to infuse the Jewish people with a new light and a deeper understanding of the Torah and our relationship with God and with our souls. And the Baal Shem Tov taught this same verse on a deeper level. And he says, "Uvefarischem kapechem," when you will stretch out your hands, your arms, doesn't only mean in prayer, but also means in acts of kindness. When you will do something good, when a poor man asks and you will give, when you stretch out your arms in action, in doing a good deed, says God, A'alim einai mikem, I will hide my eyes from you, I'll turn away. Gam kitarbu tefila, even if you will increase in your prayer and in your service to God. Eineni shomei, I'm not going to listen. When you do good things, I won't listen. When you say the right words, I won't listen. Says God to the Jewish people, Yedechem dami maleo, for your hands are filled with blood. What is this blood? Says the Baal Shem Tov. This blood is not actual bloodshed, but it's virtual bloodshed. And the Baal Shem Tov explains that when we encounter another human being, and even if we listen to their story, even if we help them physically and give them what they need, but if we don't put our soul into it, if we don't feel their pain, if we don't have true empathy, it's akin to bloodshed. And that's what the Baal Shem Tov taught. This very demanding teaching, that if we don't actually feel another's pain, it's like you're killing them. And God says, I won't listen to your prayers, I won't see you or hear you. So the Baal Shem Tov taught this on a Shabbos, sometime before Pesach, where two of his Hasidim, his followers, came and they were there. The Baal Shem Tov attracted all kinds of followers. He was a genius in Torah, he was a miracle worker, he was a motivator, and he was an influencer. He was everything. So all kinds of people came to him. At this specific Shabbos, there were two men of notable features or characteristics. One Chassid was Rebbe Nisan. Rebbe Nisan was a very wealthy business person. He dealt with linen and materials, and he was also an incredible scholar. He was known to know everything. He's always studying Torah. In between transactions, whenever he had a moment, he was studying. That was Reb Nisan. But, says the previous Rebbe in his Hasidic discourse as he related this story, he said Reb Nisan was a man who worked with his mind. He was a Baal Moyach. He was a mind man. He was an academic. And the Baal Shem Tov taught in this same teaching. He was teaching that there are various forms of service. Some people serve God with their minds more. Some people serve God with their heart more. And Reb Nisan was a mind man. There was another person who heard the same teaching at that same Shabbos before Pesach. His name was Reb Avraham. Avraham was a simpleton, barely knew how to read Hebrew, just barely. But he was a man with a large heart, and he served God with his heart and with his soul, and he loved every Jew, no matter where, when, or who. Both of these people were at the Shabbos table when the Baal Shem Tov taught this teaching, that when you stretch out your arm, God says, and even if you do a good deed, I will not listen or see you if you are not empathetic, if you're not truly, truly feeling the other person's pain and experiencing their plight. And Baal Shem Tov in that same talk spoke about the differences between the people who serve God with their mind, academically, intellectually, and those who serve with their heart. But he said there's no difference. God will still not listen to you as long as you're truly empathetic. The two men went on their separate ways. They went back home for Pesach. Each of them with a different approach or dilemma. Nisan, the academic, was intellectually analyzing the teaching that the Baal Shem Tov said. He was trying to figure out, what does it mean? You serve God with your heart, you serve God with your mind. What does it mean? God will listen, he won't listen. And he was trying to figure things out. Reb Avraham didn't understand the scholarly academic part of the lesson too much, but he knew one thing, that you need to love your fellow Jew even more, and you need to feel their pain even more, and experience what they're going through, experience their plight. And he worked really, really hard on that. He started talking to people, empathizing, and genuinely developing his empathy. Fast forward to Pesach. The Baal Shem Tov was sitting with his students around a table, and he started singing a deep nigun, a wordless melody. During this nigun, the Baal Shem Tov tells his students to each hold their hands. Everybody should hold each other's hand around the table, make a circle, and then he closed the circle with his hands and told everyone, close your eyes. And they did. When they closed their eyes, they were transported. Remote viewing session with the Baal Shem Tov. They were transported over space. At the same time, it was still Pesach, but they noticed they moved into the home of Reb Nisan from Brod, this scholarly, wealthy businessman. I'm sorry, other way around. They first went to the home of Reb Avraham. They went to the home of Reb Avraham, this poor, simple Jew. They look inside his home and they see there's barely a chair to sit on. There's a few scrapes of matzah on the table with some olive oil and maybe a fruit, and that's it. The kids are all sitting around the table and a few guests, and the place is beaming with joy. People are exuberant. They're talking about Pesach. They're excited. They're singing. They're dancing. There's no food on the table, but the joy is thick and felt. The beauty, the glow is there. And then they move on they go to Reb Nisan's home in Brod. And inside Reb Nisan's home is a palace. They have to get through the guards virtually, and they come inside, up the stairs into these beautiful chambers, chandeliers, carpet from wall to wall. The table is as long as far as you can see, the guests all around the table, golden vessels, and he describes there how beautiful it was. But the people, their attitudes, they were all upset, aggressive, feeling entitled. They were not happy. They were miserable. And then they came back. The Baal Shem Tov said, let's release the hands, release the arms, let's stop our song, and let's talk. So the Baal Shem Tov continues and says, look what happens. He says, when a person is empathetic and he sees the beauty and the value in every other person, and he truly loves his fellow Jew, then he's always filled with joy. He's always happy. When he sees the beauty in every person and the opportunity in every experience, he's filled with joy, always happy. And other people are not. And then the previous Rebbe said that I think it was the Baal Shem Tov who connected this, and he said this is also reminds us of another pasuk in Mishlei, in the teachings of King Solomon, Shlomo HaMelech. It says, Tov pas chareva mi bayis mole zivchei riv. It's better to have just a few crusts of dry bread. Tov pas chareva vishalvaba. Sorry. Tov pas chareva vishalvaba. It's better to have dry bread and tranquility in the home. Mi bayis mali zivchei riv. Rather than a full home with the most beautiful delicacies, but it's also filled with strife. Anyway, moms and dads, boys and girls, I think this is a teaching that the Rebbe lived with, that you love your fellow Jew. The Rebbe felt everyone's situation, his pain and his joy, and he addressed it in the most personable way. And I think this is one message that we can all go home with. And if you're able to go to the Rebbe's Ohel tonight, or the next 24 hours, please do. Otherwise, write a note, ohelchabad.org. You could write a little letter to the Rebbe. And if you haven't yet signed up, Shem, Jewish Educational Media.tv has a weekly subscription, 50% off now, where you can get a weekly beautiful inspiration from the Rebbe delivered to your email, or go online and see it. It's a good time to connect and reconnect, and may we, all of us, leave Egypt, leave our personal Mitzrayim, our personal borders and boundaries in every way, personally and globally and communally, and celebrate Pesach in Yerushalayim, Hoshana Hazot. This year, Yerushalayim Havnuya. God bless you all. Thanks for joining. Share.